All right. Once again, this is Monica Monitor with the California SO, and today we're going to cover the information on the changes that are happening related to the upgrade for the transmission registry application. Today I have my producer, Dottie Vance, who will be helping to facilitate questions that come up during the call. In addition, we have some subject matter experts who will be able to provide some clarification or elaborate on any information that you may have. So before we get started, I just want to make sure that that everyone is able to see the presentation, and then we'll get started. Can I get a show of hands? Perfect.
I can confirm. Yep.
Thank you, Dottie. Now, there are some housekeeping rules. So while we're going through the presentation, make sure that you are on mute. And then when you have any questions or would like to add a question in the chat or raise your hand, you do have some options. You can add it to the chat box if you want to provide your questions there, or use the hand feature to ask your question and unmute yourself. Now, today's agenda is pretty straightforward. The reason why we're here today is to make sure that we give you a high-level review of the changes that are coming up that are going to impact you. And then we're going to go over some application-related details that's going to help you once you are performing those functions in those specific applications. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the market sim activity, so that way you have an opportunity to test these new changes in that environment. Before we get started, let's talk about some milestones. Last year, we had a discussion about the technology for the transmission registry application. We realized that this is a system that is 20 plus years old and needs to be updated. So it has legacy technology that isn't fully equipped to allow us to perform the functions that we need to do today. So we saw this as an opportunity to upgrade the existing application to introduce some new look and feel, a better version of what we had from 20 years ago. So we want to make this so that way it's up to date for our current users. As you can see, since the discussion from 2022, today we are having the training so that way we can prepare you for the new changes that are to come. And then next week, starting next week on November 22nd, we will be opening up the map stage environment for our users to perform their validations. The test allow you to go into the system and explore the changes. And then for the implementation of these new changes, we are tentatively looking for January 2024. We don't have a specific date yet because we want to make sure that we give our PTOs, our participating transmission owners, along with our business units, time to go into the system and make sure that what we have out there meets what it is that our customers need. And so we want to make sure you guys have that opportunity. And then by January, beginning of next year, we'll be able to communicate those firm implementation dates. So just wanted to give you an idea as how much time we have in between. So again, market sim will start next week. I'll go into more details as we get to that section. So now let's focus. Let's go ahead and switch over to the background. Why are we having this training? What's changing? What do you need to know, right? So the focus on this section will be, just to recap what the transmission registry application is and what it offers, what's changing, and who does it impact. So as I mentioned earlier, why are we here today? We saw this as an opportunity to upgrade the existing technology for the transmission registry application. And so in doing so, it's going to promote other areas that allows us to expand our system. One of the things that we're going to be doing is changing the way the UAA provision access for the users for the transmission registry system. Now, with a show of hands, do I have any UAA, user access administrators, who are responsible for managing the access for their organization. Do I have any UAAs on today's call? By a show of hands, if you can raise your hand, so that way, if there's any specific questions, at least I want to make sure that I clarify. Dottie, do you see any raise of hands, or? And it's okay if we.
I do not see any raised hands at this time, though.
Okay, no worries. That's quite fine. And we'll make sure that once we're done with this presentation, you can forward this information over to your user access administrator, so that way they have this information as they're preparing to provision the users for the transmission registry application. So no worries. Another thing that's happening is there's going to be a new look and feel to the existing application. So a newer version of this will allow you to have more flexibility, be able to perform functionalities that you won't be able, that you didn't have before. But just to reemphasize, the system is mainly focused, or is mostly.
I'm not sure if it's my audio, but Mo, I wanted to check with you. I can no longer hear you.
I can confirm I cannot hear Mo either.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
I can hear you now. Thank you so much for confirming, Shinyu.
Thank you, guys. And I didn't realize that the system had dropped off. I want to make sure where I left off, I can start from there. So, Dottie, what was the last thing that everyone heard?
You were talking about the new look and feel and the new testing environment.
Perfect. Yep. Perfect. Thank you. So the new look and feel. So the application is going to offer a new look and feel. You're going to be able to have some new features that you didn't have before. So you're going to be able to see in real time what those look like. And then also you're going to have a new testing environment, which you didn't have before. So I'm excited about introducing that to you guys in today's call. So let's go ahead and move forward. Now, the transmission registry application. So this application is essentially for the used by the participating transmission owners, the PTOs that are responsible for the operation and maintenance of the transmission assets within the California SOCA. So this tool allows them to be able to manage users, be able to update information related to the transmission assets. This one is, again, an outdated tool that is in need of upgrades. So this is why we're here today, because we want to make sure that we make this tool more robust for you. So this right here has specific roles that are involved that allows you to perform this task. So that's where we're going to go ahead and move on to the next. But before I do that, again, I just want to emphasize, you know, the customers that are impacted, those that are impacted by this change are primarily going to be, of course, for the external users, it's going to be the participating transmission owners, the PTOs, and then also the user access administrators who are going to be provisioning the access for those users. This screen right here applies to both those audience, because we want to make sure that if we're changing something, those audience understand, you, the audience, and the UAAs understand what the changes are and how it's going to impact you and what you need to know after these changes are implemented. Now, before I move on, do we have any questions? Anybody have any things they want to add? I just want to make sure I give my subject matter experts an opportunity to add any comments also. So let me go ahead and pause this for a minute. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next. So now let's talk about the provisioning access piece. This section right here is specific to the user access administrators. Now, I didn't see a show of hands for any of the UAAs on today's call. However, you can share this information with them. This presentation is recorded and will be posted on our Learning Center, so that way you can access later on if they're not able to make this call or make this training, or any of your users, your transmission registry users that weren't able to make this training will be recorded, is recorded. So let's go ahead and move on to the next. But before I do that, just want to emphasize that this section is going to focus on the new method on how users, how the users, access administrators are going to request for the TR application going forward. They're already doing that today for the map stage environment. In addition to how the new provisioning is going to look like, we're also going to be covering the map stage environment, the new map stage environment, where participants can actually go in and test their data. Again, this wasn't available before, but this is now available to you guys. Before we start, I do want to just reemphasize the role, just to go over the different roles, the external roles that are involved in this application. So for external users, you're used to seeing the PTO, the participating transmission owner admin role. This role right here allows those users to be able to manage, to modify, or report any of the transmission registry components that are in the system that are maintained, owned by their organization, specific to their organization. The PTO admin has more flexibility. They have more options. And so if you are designated as a PTO admin, you'll most likely see more views in the screen. Now for the PTO users, those users don't have quite the same access as the admin. However, they are still able to go into the application, they're able to create components, view, update components, and submit change requests as well, specific to their organization or shared with their organization. And then there's the linker role. Oh, I apologize. The PTO user cannot create. So I'll update that. So thank you for that clarification, Curtis. So, but the PTO users essentially have the ability to go into the system and view the information that is updated in the application. But the PTO admin is the one that can can create or modify and maintain information there, along with the ISO as well. So thank you for that clarification. Now the linker role allows folks to create or remove a component link. Now I do have the next slide that will explain these roles. So for the transmission registry, users cannot have both the PTA, they cannot be provisioned for both the PTO admin and the PTO user role. They have to have one or the other. It's the UA's responsibility to make sure that the users are set up with one or the other. In addition, when they go into the AIM application, which I'll talk in a few minutes, when they go into the Access Identity Management application, as they're getting ready to submit a request for a new user to have these roles, they'll be notified. They'll receive an error message if they submit a request for both roles, the admin and the user, so they won't be able to do that. But they have to make sure they submit a request for one or the other. Now, here's the second bullet right here. It tells you that if you are a PTO admin, you can have the linker role added to your profile as well. So you can have the linker role and an admin role, but you cannot have a PTO admin and PTO user on the same profile. Now, for the PTO user, same thing. You can be a PTO user and a linker. So you can have a combination of PTO admin and linker, or PTO user and linker, and that will allow you to perform those tasks in the system. So the current transmission registry access request process today is a little different from what it's going to look like tomorrow, or at least, in the future. There's some caveats that I do have to share with this one, because today, as the UAAs, or user access administrators, are creating access for new users in the system, they have to create the users in the Access Identity Management application, the tool that allows those UAAs to manage the organization's access. So they have to go in there, create the users in there. Then they would have to fill out a separate form, an application access request form, the ARC form. And in that form, that supplemental form, they have to select the applicable roles for the user. And the only option that they had was for production. So they have to create a user in the AIM tool, create a supplemental form, and then once they complete that form, they have to upload this form into the city application, the customer inquiry dispute information application. So different applications. And then after that, they would have to follow the 10 business day service level agreement. So 10 business days for them to get their TR access, because it requires a manual entry into the actual system. So that's the process today, where users, the UAAs, have to create the new users in the AIM tool, fill out a separate form, and they only have the option to select production, obviously, and then they upload this form into another application, in the city application, and then wait 10 business days. So that is the current process today. So it can be cumbersome, but we want to make that easier going forward. So what we're going to change with this new process is eliminate 2 of those tasks. So folks, your UAs are still going to have to create the new users in AIM, and the AIM tool. And then in that same tool, they'll be able to provision their users for those specific roles in that same tool. So they don't have to go to a separate tool. They can complete those tasks in that same tool. For the purpose of today, for this time, until this goes into production, they can submit this request, use this new access request process, the map stage environment. For production access, for new users for the production environment, folks will still have to follow the old process, but let's go back to the beginning here. The new process will involve the UAA having to submit the new users in AIM, but now they can actually finish their request in the same tool and request for the roles in AIM for the applicable environment. The 2 tasks that are going to be removed is having to fill out that supplemental form, that application access request form, that ARF form, and then having to upload their request into another application, the city application. The 10 business day SLA still applies for now until we automate this process. It is an enhancement that we're going to be working on later on, but for now, the new process will involve new users in AIM, and then provision the users in AIM still, but still having to wait the 10 business days to make sure that our folks are able to update the users in the TR applications to make sure that they're able to associate the folks in there appropriately. So, as I mentioned, these two tasks are go away. No more form, no more city applications. So, as I mentioned, we're going to streamline it. Last week, I sent out an email to your user access administrators for all the folks that have access to the transmission registry application. And I requested for them to begin submitting access for the map stage environment following this new process in the AIM application. And some of them have done that. But the caveat to that is that for map stage, you're going to follow this new process. Your UAs are going to be able to go into AIM and complete those transactions in AIM. But for access to the production environment, so let's say you have new users who want access to the transmission registry application for the production environment. Until we go live, the old provisioning process still applies. They'll still need to fill out the form, the application access request form, and upload it into City. So I just want to let you know that for the purpose of the map stage environment, being that it is a new environment, users will be able to have 2 options. They can still, the UAs can still follow the old process, which is filling out the R form, or they can go directly into AIM to complete that access or complete the provisioning for their users for map stage, for the map stage environment. But for production, while we're working to verify, validate information, you still have to follow the old process for any new requests for TR in production. I'm going to pause right here real quick. I do want to, I know this is something different. So I want to pause right here, Nadia. I want to see if we have any questions out there regarding the access piece in terms of when to use the new process and when to use the old process.
Okay, so I'm looking, and just a reminder, if you have a question, you can either use the raise your hand icon or you can enter in the chat.
Okay.
So currently, no, I don't see any hands raised or anything in the chat. I'll let you know if anything comes through. So I'll pass it back to you.
Okay, and thank you, Dottie. And we'll have more time later at the end of the presentation should you have any questions later on regarding the provisioning piece, because it is going to be a little tricky, but we want to make sure we clarify it so that it's clear enough so that way when you share this information with your user access administrator, they have an understanding of when to use the new process and when to use the old process. And I'll send some additional information after this call to provide that clarification in addition to this. So another thing I do want to emphasize is that since we have a old and new process on how to provision access for the TR application, I want to make sure that the UAAs know that if they're going to pick a method, make sure they stick to one method. So if they're submitting a request for a new user for map stage, make sure they either go through the new process or the old process. It cannot be both, otherwise your request may be rejected. So I just want to make sure that you either pick the new or the old, but eventually the old process will go away and the new process will take over. And the new process is really going to help streamline the access request going forward. It's just knowing when to use that new process. And right now, it's solely for map stage environment. Okay. Now today, how are folks accessing the transmission registry application in production? There's a couple ways that they can actually access this application. They can go to the market participant portal for the production environment and then click on the TR application, as you can see on the left screen. So they can go to the market participant portal and then select the application icon from there to access the application in production. And then on the right side, they can also go directly into the application by clicking on this link listed here in the production environment. So there are, again, two different ways for you to access the transmission registry application. Now, as I alluded earlier, you guys, the PTOs, will have a new environment in map stage. This environment didn't exist before. It was mainly a production environment, and you didn't have an opportunity to test some data submissions. So now you do. In this upgrade, our folks have created a new environment in map stage to allow our PTOs to be able to go in there and test the functionality, test their data, and perform these tests. So this environment is now available to you in addition to the production environment. So so now if you want to be able to go into that environment, you have the option to go through the market participant portal page for the map stage environment, which I provided the link here, and then again, similar to production, going into that page, clicking on the TR application, or you can go directly to that going directly into that application in the map stage environment. But before you do that, the focus now is more so making sure that you guys, your UAAs, your user access administrators are working with you to get you those access into the map stage environment. That's the most important piece right now. So I want to make sure if your user access administrator haven't done so, I want to make sure that they are provisioning your access for the map stage environment in preparation for the market sim, which is scheduled for next week on the 22nd. So you still have time to get your access for that. If you don't have access yet, please reach out to your UAAs to get you set up. Okay. So in that last section, we covered the changes to the new process for provisioning access to the TR, when to submit that request, which is the new process will apply to the map stage environment. And then for the production, you can continue to use the old process until we go live. Then it'll be the new process going forward to streamline your request. By that time, you won't have to fill out the R form or the or submitted or upload your request into the city. It's all going to be done in AIM. And then we also talked about the map stage environment, which was not available to you before, but now you have an opportunity to use this environment to go there and validate some data submission, be able to explore some of the new changes. So this is a great opportunity for you to have because it wasn't available before. Starting, I'm going to go ahead and pause right here to see if any folks might have some questions regarding the provisioning piece.
Okay, I'm looking right now, Mo, to see if I see any hands raised. And currently I do not. Looking in the chat as well, I don't see any questions posed at this time.
Thank you. And then also I'm going to see if any of my subject matter experts have any additional information to add on top of this with respect to the provisioning for the Transmission Registry application. Do any of my subject matter experts have anything to add outside of what we just covered? Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next. So now let's talk about the changes to the new look and feel. As I mentioned before, this application to upgrade really is to enhance the outdated technology, to upgrade the outdated technology and provide a new look and feel. The functionalities in the applications are still the same. There are user guides out there. We have 4 user guides out there that will be updated before the end of today. Those user guides will have screenshots of the new changes. So the functionality is the same, instructions, everything that you used to do before are the same. The only difference is that now the screens are going to be slightly different. It's more updated, and you'll have some additional features on there in addition to the upgraded layout. So some of the things I do want to note on these new look and feel, the changes that you're going to see is that the search filter display has been redesigned so that way, as opposed to taking up a majority of the page, it's going to be stretched out so that way it allows more landscape for your data results. So that's one of the notable mentions with the new updates. And we'll go through this. We'll be able to view this in real time in the application itself, so you could see some of these changes. But I wanted to give you a list of some of the things to note as we're going to be jumping onto the application as well. The clear button is now referred to as the reset filter. The preference and help links that you used to see at the top of the screen will be, or I should say, has been moved into the user profile icon. Again, we're just trying to eliminate a lot of the wasted space so that way we give you more landscape to be able to view the data results. You also have the option to switch from light to dark mode. So if your screen is if the density on the screen is not clear enough, then you can also swap, or should I say alternate to a dark mode version. You'll have some filter icons that will allow you to display your data a lot better. It gives you a lot more flexibility. And then another thing to add is that you'll be able to navigate between the different rows. You'll be able to view rows per page, a set number of rows per page, and toggle between batches as opposed to have to scroll all the way down to the end of the screen. So you'll have a little bit more flexibility with the new changes. Before I jump into the actual application, I do want to just share some of the screenshots, and then we'll jump into the application so you'll see kind of like the before and the after and see some of the changes that I mentioned earlier. Now, in the old application, the old TR application, the screen right here is pretty much what you're seeing in production today. I mentioned that the search filter format is essentially taking up most of your screens, and then it also has some wasted space over here. So we, with the new layout, it's actually going to be a lot better. It's more enhanced, so that way you have more space at the bottom. So let's go ahead and, so now you see under the component screen, you see the search, you see the search results in the bottom. As I mentioned on the upper, located on the upper right corner, you see your preference link, the help link. That's what I mentioned in the old screen or in the old version. You see these up here, but in the new version, which is here, you don't see those on there anymore because the preference and the help link has been moved into the profile icon up in the top right here. A lot of the information that you had on your other screen are similar to what you'll see in the new screen with a few slight modifications. I mentioned that the filter section has been redesigned so that way it stretches across the screen. So it's a little bit more updated now, and it allows you to have more space for your data results when you run your searches. Another thing I do want to mention is that on here, you'll see you have on the middle of the page, there's the static search and the dynamic search. Still the same function as before. You see at the bottom of the page, there's the export, the layout, similar functions as the old version. Again, really just more of a new look and feel. The system is outdated and just needed to be revamped. Towards the top, you see if you have the admin role, you'll be able to see those 4 tabs, I believe. For admins, you see the components, requests, admin, and reports tab up here. For those that have the TR user role, you only see 2 tabs. I believe it's the components and the reports tab, I believe. So some of the modified features that we have on here are I mentioned that, I mentioned on the previous list that the clear button is now referred to as the reset all filters. In your search filter before, you had to select the options one at a time, and you had to click a green button, which I'll show when we jump into the application, but you had to click a green button in order to add an additional option. Here you have check boxes. So now when you, on the left side right here, when you click on the drop down, it'll give you an option to select the check boxes if you want to make multiple selections. And on the top, as I mentioned, that icon, the profile icon, now contains the preferences and link and help link in that icon. So that way it eliminates the additional space up there to allow more room for other things. For the new features, I do want to call out that you have the option, as I mentioned from the list before, the ability to switch from light mode and dark mode. On the top right corner, you see that icon, the crest icon. That's going to be the command button for you to click so you can switch from dark or light mode. And we're going to demonstrate this in the application so you'll see what I mean. And then to the right, you also have the ability to adjust your columns. So you're going to be able to either hide all your columns or select, modify your columns. At the bottom, as I mentioned, you're going to be able to navigate between the rows per page. And then to the left, if you look to the left, group by column, you have the ability to provide groupings, and you can add multiple columns in there that you want to group by. These functionalities were not available in the old application. With this upgraded version, you have a little bit more flexibility. All right, so now let's go ahead and I'm going to stop here and I'm going to share the application so you can see a side-by-side. Okay, Dottie, can you confirm if you can see my screen and if you can see the 2 applications?
Yes, I can confirm that I see both applications on your screen.
Perfect. So to the left, this is the old version, which is what you see in production today. This is the transmission registry application in the production environment as of today. On the right side, this is how it's going to look going forward. It's more spaced out. You have more options. The tabs are still the same. The tabs that you see on your left side, the components, request, admin, reporting, again, depending on what TR role you have, are the same on here. In the home screen on the left side, you see that the views, the find components participating in the PTO entitlements, those are listed as links on the home pages, the components homepage, whereas on the right side, the components screen has drop downs that you can select based on what it is you're trying to do. So the views that you would see before on the left side are listed as under the drop down, and you can select these to get to those pages. So find components, which is the page that we're on here. I mentioned earlier that the search display takes up most of the space on the left side of the old system. The new system, this we're going to expand this real quick, stretches out to your screen, so that way it allows you to have more landscape for your data results. So that was one of the notable changes on here. You can still perform a lot of the same functionalities from the system, the static, dynamic. Let's go to static. You click on, I mentioned earlier, they have checkboxes where you can go in here and select multiple options. Whereas before, on the left side, the old version, you were required to, so if you wanted to add more options, you had to click on this green button in order to add those. Here on the right side, you can select those options by selecting the checkboxes, and they'll populate in your search bar. And here on this screen, another notable, another thing I do want to mention on this is that you still have the same functionalities. The save queries, you can still create your queries, manage queries here on the left side. On the right side, your queries option is still there. Export on the left side, you have the ability to export your data results. So a lot of the functionality that you have in the old screen still is the same in the new screen, with some slight minor new look and feel, and some slight new features. Another thing I do want to mention is if you go up into the top of the screen, I mentioned the switching from light to dark mode. So here on the right side on the top right corner, if I click on this crest icon, it will allow you to switch to dark mode, and then you can swap back to light mode. So it's really based on your user preference. So if you want to change to dark mode for ease of use or just better visibility, you have that option, whereas the old screen didn't provide you with that option. Okay. And as I mentioned, if you click on that icon, here's user preference, here's the help link. And again, static, dynamic search, those functions still carried over, they're still here. And as I'm going through this, if anybody has any questions that they'd like to ask, or if any of my subject matter experts would like to insert any best practices, please feel free to raise your hand or unmute. Let's go ahead and go to the find request. I believe for PTO users, you don't have this option. You have the components and the reports, but for PTO admins, you have this here. And so let me go ahead and expand the screen so that way you can see some of those other functionality, the new features that I mentioned. I mentioned the grouping of the columns. So let's go ahead and group a few things. So we have the type here in this column. I'm going to click on this expansion sign right here, or this icon right here, and I'm going to drag it up here because I want to group by type. And let's say you want to, oh, let me clarify that. So PTO users actually have the ability to find, to view the find change request as well. So thank you for that clarification. So yeah, so if you want to add multiple groupings in there, just click on that icon right there and just drag it up, and then it'll continue to group it by the sequence that you select. So you have that option. The other is these filter icons that I mentioned before. So let's do approved, and let's add a few, and let's run the search. And again, this is in the map stage environment. So when you go in the map stage environment, you're going to be able to see this version in there and be able to perform these tasks. So I'm going to go ahead and go back and add that there, add that there, just drag them, and then that'll allow you to group. And then over here on the, let me expand this, on the right side, you have the option to hide and show your filter. Let me just run the search so we can have the data. You have the ability to show or hide your filters. You have the ability to hide or show your columns. So let's do the hide all. That will remove all your columns, bring it back, do the show all, and then you can modify your columns based on your preference on what you want to be viewed on there or what you want to see on there. So, and then also you can toggle your density, allowing you to either expand or shrink your rows. Just more of a display, option. And then you can toggle to full screen so you can see all your data in a larger screen, or you can toggle back so that way you can see all of them on the screen. So these are new features that have been added to the new version. And again, a lot of the functionality, I do want to emphasize, a lot of the functionalities remain still the same. It's just that you have a new look and feel, and you have a little bit more flexibility to perform functions that allow you to modify your displays and how you search for the record. Okay. Any questions so far? And I do also want to give an opportunity. Oh, go ahead. Dottie, was there a question?
Nope, I was going to let you know I didn't see any hands raised.
Oh, okay, thank you. And before I get out of the screen, I do want to see if any of my subject matter experts want to add any additional best practices or anything about the new version, so that way folks are able to see if there's anything else that I may have missed.
Good morning, everyone. This is Akem Firdaus, the product manager of the transmission registry application. So, Monica, I would like to thank you, and you are doing extraordinary here. You are covering almost everything. So there is nothing else to add from my side. Just a basic comment that we are not changing anything, any functionality from the user perspective. Everything is the same as before. User just only will be seeing a different look and feel. So the way you are going, I think you're covering everything. I have nothing additional to add. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Firdaus. So again, I just want to add on to that, is that the transmission registry application is over 20 plus years old, and it was time for us to update the existing technology to give our users, our PTOs, the ability to have more flexibility to perform these tasks in an application that allows them more ease of use. As Firdaus mentioned, everything, in terms of functionalities that you have been performing in the past still exists. Nothing has changed. It's just that now we have a more updated version of the application. And in addition to the updated version, we want to give you some new amenities that you didn't have before. So that way you can search for the information, you can enter your information, you can review your information in a much more effective landscape, right? So the emphasis today is really just giving you an opportunity to see what this new look and feel look like in the updated, upgraded application that we're going to be that will be available to you in the map stage environment. In addition to that was the map stage environment to give you another environment to have, as opposed to just a production environment. This really is more for customers to have more ease of use with this upgraded version. So thank you for that.
So, Monica, one thing I would like to add here. So, and I would like to recognize here that PG&E have been requesting for those map stage market simulation environment for a while. I remember dealing with some of their representative directly, and they have expressed the need of those additional market simulation environment for a long time. So Scott from our grid asset team also he also did the same thing. So we have been trying to get this additional environment for our participant for a long time, and we are glad that finally we are able to make it. And that's why I think I just wanted to do this shout out for the PG&E that they're the one who requested for this additional environment several times.
Agreed. Thank you, PG&E folks. And I know this is going to be something that will all help other entities as well, other PTOs. So your feedback really does, is valuable to us. And that's why when you tell us, if there's something else that we could do, when you ask us if there's something else that we could do to help make your lives a lot easier, right, to improve our existing technologies. So when you have those valuable input, it allows us to reevaluate and see what we can do to help our customers. So thank you for that feedback. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. So essentially what you see in this application, the side-by-side, the old and the new, is really, like I said, it's a new, different look and feel. Everything's still the same, with the exception that now you have a map stage environment to go in and test and explore. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. So let's go ahead and let's talk about the readiness activity. As you're getting ready to go into the map stage, market sim environment, should say, starting next week, while you're working with your UAAs to get the access to the new map stage environment, you're going to have an opportunity to go in and explore the new changes. And we want to make sure that by the time we go live early next year, we want to give you this time from next week, start next week to the end of the year, to go in and, just see if you can, see if there's any changes that you see that will, change your existing process. And then if there's anything in between, we want to hear about it. So, so let's go ahead and dive into the readiness activities, the market sim. We're going to talk a little bit about the market sim activities. We're going to do a recap, and then we're going to talk about some action items that we have for you by the end of this presentation. Now, the market simulation timeline, as I mentioned, next week, Wednesday, November 22nd, is when we're going to open the market simulation, when we want folks to start going into the system. The map stage environment is already open. Right now, if you do not already have access to map stage, we want to make sure that you work with your user access administrators to get you the appropriate access. I mentioned earlier that I reached out, we sent a customer outreach to all your UAAs to make sure that they get you the right access into the map stage environment and to follow the new process for the access request for the map stage environment. So starting next week, make sure you get the access, start going into the system and performing. Also, one thing I do want to mention is that for the market sim environment, it is an unstructured scenario, meaning that there's no specific requirements that you have to perform, unlike the structured scenarios where you will be able to have access into this new environment and go in and perform the same functionality you perform in production, essentially, right? But in this map stage environment, and then see how those changes from the old and the new version. So make sure you get that opportunity to go in there and perform that same function in the map stage environment starting next week. In terms of the market sim form, usually for market sim, we have a form specific to the release of the project. In this case, there is no set form for this, but we will have a market sim for other releases, other projects, and it will be open to you guys to have an opportunity to join those market sim forums later this year. And you can bring up questions related to TR, but there's no set market sim specific to the markets, to the transmission registry, but it will be kind of like an open forum for folks that are testing in the market sim environment, and that would be a good opportunity for you guys to join so that way you can hear feedback from other customers as well. The dates for those forums will be posted later, will be communicated to you guys later on, so that way you'll be able to go to the CAISO calendar and see what dates those meetings will take place. And here I have a link to the KISO calendar, so that way you can click on that calendar to see when those forums are opening up. Now, I mentioned earlier there is no, it is an unstructured market scenario or market sim, meaning that there's no specific requirements for you to follow. And again, this is voluntary. So if you want to go into the map stage environment, once you have that role, you have the option to go in there and perform the same task that you did in the production environment. And that way you familiarize yourself with these new changes before they go live into production by early next year. So I listed some of the functions that the TR users would normally perform, and that way it gives you a starting point. Another thing I do want to mention is that we do have 4 user guides, so 4 user manuals that are posted on our external page. I will send the instructions on how to get to those user guides at the end of the presentation. Essentially, the user guides will have screenshots. The user guides will have screenshots of the new version, so that way, as you're going through those steps in the user guide, you'll be able to identify what those screens will look like. Now, I know that we have folks that are working on the user guides right now, updating for manuals, and so we're hoping to have those all officially posted before the end of today. When those are done, I'll make sure we notify you guys that, yep, it's there, along with the recording and the presentation, so that way you can access at a later time. So here at the bottom, as I mentioned, is a link to the manual user guide for you to go in and walk and follow those steps in order to form these markets and scenarios. And again, they're voluntary at your discretion. Same thing for the PTO users. The previous one was for the PTO admin. This is for the PTO users. Now, if you have questions related to what you've seen today, or you've been in the system and you ran into any issues or just had some comments, you have the opportunity to submit a city ticket, and then select the market sim environment. Make sure that you select the market sim environment, and in the subject line, please be sure to add the keyword transmission registry, so that way we can identify which market sim it's referring, or which application it's referencing. So be sure to, again, submit the market sim environment, select the market sim environment, select the keyword transmission registry. Now, I know there was a lot of information that I went over today, and the purpose of today is really just to show you the new look and feel, and to let you know about the a new environment, as well as the changes in the way UAAs are going to be provisioning for TR going forward. So I'm going to go ahead and pause one more time just to see if we have any questions.
So just a reminder, if you have a, oops, sorry, Mo. A reminder, you can raise your hand virtually, and we can call on you, or you can enter your question in the chat.
Thank you, Dottie.
So I'm looking,
and again, oh, go ahead, sorry.
Nope, you're so good. I was just going to say there are no questions at this time. I'll pass back to you.
Awesome. Again, you know, and as I mentioned, the user guide will be posted later today. I'll send a notification out to all the folks on today's call to let you know when that user guide is published, along with the recording for today's training. Last thing I do want to leave you with is, you know, an action item. If you have not already, if your UAAs have not already provisioned you access to the new map stage environment, reach out to your UA, your user access administrators. And if you don't know who your UAAs are, reach out to us, and we'll find the information for you so we can get you in touch with them. Make sure you get access to the map stage environment in addition to the production that you already have. Then once you get that access, make sure you go into the map stage environment and validate your access, so that way you can ensure that you have all the resources needed to perform those markets and scenarios. And then after that, review the user guide, the user manuals that we'll be publishing before the end of today to see what has changed, and share that with our folks that are responsible for updating information in TR. For those that are not able to make it today, we'll make sure we get you the information from today's training so that way you don't miss out on any changes. And then lastly, like I said, go in there, explore the new changes in the map stage environment. If there's something you see that you want to comment on, or you had questions, or you're running into issues, we want to hear about those. And so make sure you submit those theme tickets, and then we'll make sure we get our subject matter experts on those to get you taken care of. And then here towards the end, I have a link to those user manuals that I mentioned earlier, so that way you can refer to those, in addition to a link to the map stage environment and production environment. There is one thing I do want to mention, is that when we do go live, the UI, the user interface URL for production is going to change, but we will send out a communication. There is a project that we have separate from this where we are updating all the UI URLs, the API URLs. So when we are getting ready to go live, we'll make sure that we cover this in the respective forums, the technical user group, the release user group, the markets and forums. We'll make sure we notify you through there in addition to the customer notification, so that way you don't miss out on that. So with that, I am going to go ahead and conclude today's training. I appreciate the subject matter experts on the call that were able to attend, in addition to my producer, Dottie Vance. Thank you all, and I'll go ahead and end the recording.